What up, my Kresh? It's me, Fresh. Last time, if you remember, I ended up speaking about my top 10 Pokemon from Generation 2. Well, it's time to dive into another region, Generation 3 and the Hoenn region. This is one of my favorite generations from childhood, and a lot of people agree, because there's many Pokemon in here that everyone loves. So without further ado, I've got a list to tell you. Here we go again. This is my top 10 Pokemon from Generation 3. Number 10. Armaldo. Okay, now this is how you make an ordinary animal into one epic monster. Its name comes from Armando, the Spanish word for armored, and Ald. Armaldo is based on the Anomalocaris, one of the first ever predators to evolve on our planet. Armaldo is a really cool design, and in fact, it stands for what I believe a good Pokemon design should be, turning something cool from our world into something even cooler. Its armor is so tough that all attacks bounce off it. Its claws can be freely extended and contracted. Armaldo's claws are tough enough to punch through steel slabs, and yet, its Pokedex entries state that it can punch through anything. Okay, get your facts straight. It lived on land, but it hunts prey below the water. It skewers its prey to feed. It began to live on land ever since it evolved from Anorith. Heck, Armaldo is one of the few fossil Pokemon that didn't get hindered by evolution. Armaldo is one of the few successful fossil Pokemon that actually thrived. A lot of fossil Pokemon state that the Pokemon suffered and that's why they went extinct. But as far as I can see, Armaldo didn't have that problem. I think the reason why it became extinct is because more Pokemon just evolved and just outclassed it. Ah well, never mind Armaldo. You made this list, even after so many years later. Number 9. Flygon. I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for putting Flygon at number 9, but just remember, this is my top 10 Pokemon list. There will be no Pokemon on this list I consider bad. Flygon is based on antlions, sometimes called sand dragons. Its name is also pretty easy to figure out. It's based on dragonfly and dragon. Back in Generation 6, Flygon was originally going to have a Mega Evolution, but it never happened due to Art Block. Its only ability, Levitate, allows its immunity to ground-type moves. It's called the Elemental Spirit of the Desert, due to its wings picking up sand and surrounding it. It can create sandstorms by flapping its wings. It can also make music notes which sound like a woman singing. Now that's pretty scary. The sandstorms prevent detection from enemies. The red lenses around its eyes protect it from sand. It lures its prey into sandstorms with its singing. Okay, now that is pretty haunting. I love the proportions on Flygon, and the red and green colorations. Again, I'm probably going to get a bit of hate for putting Flygon at number 9 on this list, but not to worry. Flygon still looks awesome, and there's still 8 more awesome Pokemon to go. Number 8. Salamence. Out of both the pseudo-legendaries in this generation, Salamence is one of the coolest. It's a satisfying line of Pokemon. How it starts off as a dragon who wishes they could fly, so they practice all the time, and by its final evolution, it finally grows a pair of wings. Its name comes from salamander and immense. Salamence gains a paradox form in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and a Mega Evolution in Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Its Mega Evolution is based on a fighter jet, and it's known as the Blood-Soaked Crescent, obviously based on blood moons. The only downside I have for Salamence is, in the anime, they're almost always used by villains, like Hunter J, one of the most despised side villains in the Pokemon anime. Hunter J uses her Salamence to capture Pokemon and steal them, only to sell them off to higher buyers. Now that's just diabolical. But aside from that, the Salamence that I have are pretty good-natured. Its dream of flying allowed it to finally fly. As a result, it flies in circles, spewing flames from its mouth. It rampages out of control when it's angry, destroying everything with its fire and claws, scorching fields and mountains. It doesn't stop flying or rampaging until it tires out and falls asleep. It can slice anyone in half with its wings. Ow! Number 7. Back up. That's better. Wailord. As of this moment, Wailord is the tallest and biggest non-legendary Pokemon of all time, just behind Eternatus and the Dynamaxed Pokemon. Its name comes from whale and lord, obviously based on blue whales, but also partly based on submarines. Wailord is admired because of how big it is. It swims slowly in open sea. It can eat huge amounts of food. It herds prey by leaping out of the water and splashing them into the air. It can knock out opponents by the shock of simply breaching and splashing the water. It can consume whole schools of Wishy-Washy in one bite. They eat so much that they grow too numerous, forcing fishermen to chase them away. They protect their babies by surrounding them with the rest of the pod. As mentioned before, Wailord's size is what led to its popularity. Maybe that explains why I have a Wailord plushie at home. Wailord's size is impressive, but just to put that into perspective, the real-world ramifications Wailord imposes are even more ridiculous. It can dive 10,000 feet below the waves on one breath. What? Most whales can't even dive lower than 3,000 feet. Even though Wailord is big, it's still only 50 feet long. That's over half the size of a regular blue whale. What's even more ridiculous is its weight. It weighs under 400 kilograms? No. There is no way Wailord weighs that little. That's 245 times lighter than the Hindenburg. Most blue whales weigh over 100,000 kilograms. That's 150 tons. 400 kilograms? That's about as heavy as this pumpkin. With that little amount of mass, Wailord would literally float away in the wind like a loose bouncy castle. And that's when you realize it's called the float whale! Number 6. Tropius. Similar to Meganium, Tropius became a favorite of mine due to my early love of dinosaurs and grass-type Pokemon. Its name comes from tropical and saurus. Also like Meganium, Tropius resembles sauropod dinosaurs, but this Pokemon is a bit more based on banana plants. It's most likely based on Mokele Membe, a mythical dinosaur from the Congo River basin in Africa. The fruit that grows around Tropius's neck are sweet and popular with kids. The Pokemon also loves fruit and eats it consistently. Its love for fruit made it grow its own. This Pokemon flies by flapping its huge leaves like wings. Huh, I wonder if it starred in Return to Oz. It lives in jungles. The fruit around its neck only grows twice a year. Alolan Tropius appear to produce sweeter fruits. Let's just hope their necks don't get any longer. Number 5. Breloom. Being a grass fighting type, Breloom has some great abilities. It can allow status and healing effects. Instead of remaining grass poison, Breloom is grass fighting. Its grass fighting type means a great balance of offense and defense. It's easy to obtain, as you can just catch a Shroomish early on in your Gen 3 gameplay. And then, once it evolves into Breloom, you may as well just keep it on the team. The mushroom on its head looks like a Kasa helmet, worn by soldiers and samurai in Japan. It seems to also be based on boxing kangaroos. They use springy footwork and deliver punches with their stretchy arms better than most pro boxers. Its tail seeds are made of poisonous spores. Eating them causes stomach pain. Its punches are so fast that they almost appear invisible. Again, another reason why to keep Breloom on the team. Great typing, great moves, easy to acquire. What more can you ask for? Number 4. Ludicolo. Ludicolo is another one of those Pokemon that I just find delightfully goofy. I mean, just look at this guy. Doesn't the very sight of him make you want to smile? Its name comes from ludic, meaning aimlessly playful, and colocynth, a plant that bears round green fruit. Also, loco, the Spanish word for crazy. Ludicolo is based off a number of different places, and that's just what makes it so unique. Its hat appears to be based off giant water lilies, pineapples, Mexican folk dancers, mariachi performers, and the Japanese mythical creature, kappas. Ludicolo was famous for dancing. Ludicolo became a mascot for Pokemon TV, especially considering the fact that they perform nursery rhymes there. So Ludicolo was a great choice for song and dance numbers. It can regain its health in the rain. It starts dancing when it hears cheerful and festive music. It can't stop as a result. It appears to kids singing on outings. Music makes it energetic and powerful, even when it battles. It doesn't fear tough opponents. I think everyone knows about Brock's Ludicolo, and I'm fairly surprised Brock chose Ludicolo, considering the fact that it's a water and grass type, completely going against everything that a rock gym leader has. But not to worry, I accept it regardless. Ludicolo's great. It's cheerful, it's goofy, it's happy, it's a grass and water type, and that's why it makes my list. Number 3. Camerupt. Talk about extreme heat. Camerupt is the definition of too hot to handle. Its name comes from camel and erupt, based on Bactrian camels because of its 2 humps, which have practically turned into volcanoes. It has an epic design and a really cool name. It has a volcano in its body. The magma reaches up to 18,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Occasionally its backs erupt and spew lava. Its humps are formed by its bones transforming. It lives in volcanic craters. Its Pokédex entries state that its humps erupt when it's angry, but it also states that they erupt every 10 years. So, which is it? Does Camerupt only get angry every 10 years, or does it erupt every time it gets angry? Either way, that's pretty ridiculous. But you want to know something even more ridiculous? That 18,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Sounds pretty hot, doesn't it? Well, you're right. It's way too hot. Camerupt shares the same strange theme with Magcargo. They both reach 18,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Lava rarely soars higher than 2,200 degrees Fahrenheit. The sun burns only at 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Camerupt and Magcargo are nearly twice as hot at 18,000 degrees Fahrenheit. They should be doing a heck of a lot more than creating lava. They should be setting everything within a 10-mile radius of them on fire. They should be burning through the Earth's crust, slowly reaching the Earth's core, destroying life as we know it. Think about that. This camel and this snail have the potential to destroy the world. Lord help us if Pokemon ever become real. Number 2. Walrein. I love the Walrein line of Pokemon. Spheal is just adorable, Celio is just as cute if not a little cooler, and by the time it evolves into Walrein, wow, now that's a design. Its name comes from walrus and rain. Obviously based on a walrus, Walrein's base stats make it one of the toughest Ice-type Pokemon of all time. Its ability Thick Fat protects it from fire and Ice-type moves. I used one on my Gen 3 team. I called it Nightmare. For, obvious reasons. Its tusks can shatter blocks of ice weighing 10 tons in one blow. Its thick blubber protects it from the cold. Attacks bounce right off its skin. It forms herds of 20 to 30 individuals. It protects its herd from foes with its life. Even its tusks break in battle, which grow back in a year's time. They regrow throughout their lives. This is a great example of a great evolution line, where all three members of a Pokemon's evolution look great no matter what form they take. I was very close to putting Walrein at number 1, but there was just one other Pokemon line that just looked so much better that I had to reserve that for my number 1. But before we get to number 1, I'd like to have some honorable mentions. Beautifly and Dustox. I love Pokemon that give you multiple options, so these two were great candidates. Swellow, a cool looking early bird Pokemon with great blue and red coloring. Seviper, a striking villainous Pokemon that was a great candidate for Team Rocket's Pokemon team. And now, my number 1 Gen 3 Pokemon is... Blaziken. Now this is how you make an awesome starter Pokemon. I'm looking at you, Gen 2. The Gen 3 starter Pokemon are something extraordinary. All three of these Pokemon lines are amazing. Just like with Walrein and its evolution line, the Gen 3 starter Pokemon all look amazing. Their first forms, Treecko, Torchic, and Mudkip, all look adorable. Their evolved forms, Grovyle, Combusken, and Marshtomp, all look great and get you excited for their final forms. And by the time they evolve into Sceptile, Blaziken, and Swampert, they look just as incredible. And that's why I ultimately went with Blaziken. It evolves from a tiny little chick into a kung fu kicking chicken. Its name comes from blaze and chicken. Originally, for some reason, Blaziken was designed to be combined with Latias, but they ultimately separated the two species, making one a legendary and the other a starter. And I think that's why I love it so much. Blaziken is likely based on cockerel fighting, where people would put roosters in fights for chickens to mate with. What people wouldn't do for entertainment these days. It also appears to be based on Egyptian gods with bird heads, or Bassin, a mythical fire-breathing chicken. Its Mega Evolution was one of the very first Mega Evolutions revealed. For reference, I like calling my Blaziken Chicky-chan. Yeah, I know. It blows flames from its wrists to attack foes courageously, which burn brighter when facing tough challenges. Its legs are so strong that it can jump over a 30-story building. It learns moves that involve punches and kicks specifically. Its feathers burn off over the years, so supple new ones can grow in their place. Blaziken is up there as one of my favorite starter Pokemon of all time. The only downside I have for Blaziken is their limited appearance in the anime. Like seriously, May started off with a Torchic. It evolved into a Combusken, and it took them to the last 2 episodes of Pokemon Battle Frontier for May's Combusken to finally evolve into Blaziken. Come on, we should have been blessed with Blaziken long ago. And yes, I know a Blaziken did appear in the Pokemon anime at the start of the season, but you get the idea. Well, despite the long wait, it was so worth it. And considering the fact that Blaziken is one of my favorite all-time starter Pokemon, I think it deserves no higher praise as my number 1 Gen 3 Pokemon. Well folks, there you have it, my top 10 Gen 3 Pokemon. Join me next time where I dive into Generation 4, a generation that a lot of folks agree is one of the greatest generations of Pokemon's history. a generation that provided us with so much content and plenty of new Pokemon for us to explore. So until next time, stay fresh, and thank you for watching.